are. Thank you very much, everyone who's online. I'll pass you over to Mary now, and thanks very much.
Lovely, thank you, Alan. Hello, everyone. Another Irish accent coming through here this morning. We're out in force today. Really excited to get everyone here to talk through my webinar, Getting Clear on Careers. I would like to say thank you to The Next Step for inviting me to host this session with you today. It's a wonderful opportunity to get to talk to HR professionals. This is a space obviously that's close to my heart, having worked in the HR space for about 25 years. What I would ask of you today really is to take the time to reflect on your career and what it has been that has got you to the point you're at in your career, and also what maybe are some next steps for you. This is probably a little bit of an unusual audience for me in some ways, because usually I'm talking to individuals who are looking for some career coaching or career mentoring. And what's different today really is that as HR, HR people, what you're also expected to do is manage, in many cases, the careers for others as well. So for leaders in your team and also for their teams as well. So it's got a bit of a two-sided approach today. I will talk about both, and I think anything I'm talking about that helps your leaders was obviously something that is applicable to you in your career as well. So what's next for them is also appropriate to thinking what's next for you. We know the Bureau of Labour Statistics tell us that people will change jobs 12 times in their career, and that's this webinar really isn't about leaving your current company or your current organization. While it can support that, what it really is about helping you understand what can you do that's different to make you feel enriched in your current role, and what are some of the little changes that you can make to improve your current situation or to improve your future prospects. And again, that for your leaders as well. Sorry, let me just click on the slide. Here we go. So this is me. This is a book that I've recently written. It's called Recreate Your Career Story, How to Get Clear on Your Career. And how this came about really is, I suppose it's about changing something that changes your whole perspective. So as I said, it's not about doing something completely new and different and leaving companies and moving overseas. It's just something that changes how you feel about your work. Why I wrote the book. So I wrote the book because I believe that everybody has an opportunity to change their career story. I've come across in my career many people as well who felt frustrated in their careers and they're just not getting the promotions they expected. They're being overlooked for leadership programs. They're not getting on development programs. They're not getting opportunity to development. Sometimes people are just getting a bit restless. They've been doing the same role for quite a while and they want to do something different. Some people have been pegged to be the next successor, or they're a high potential or a high performer, but many organizations just don't have that infrastructure in place to help them move to that next position. And we know in HR, that's a real challenge all the time, is in supporting people to help them understand where to go next. I also noticed that people started to feel quite overwhelmed because they just didn't know where to start to look, or they'd come to HR and we were trying to figure that out for them all the time. But, you know, what else do I do? What do I want? What's next? I don't know what's available. So many questions and frustrations coming up for people. And that's really what prompted me to design and to develop this book. In my situation, my career story, as I mentioned, I've been in HR for about 25 years, and I was mostly in the talent management space. So as you know, it's once talent acquisition, bring people into the organization, talent management. Our role then is to look after them from onboarding, whether it's grad programs, leadership programs, professional development, and the dreaded performance management appraisal process, succession planning, all those things. So developing people once they're in an organization and retaining them. And so obviously part of that was, how do we retain through careers? And about 18 months ago, I think for a whole number of reasons, but I had been in an organization of 100,000 people globally. I was the talent management director for the Australia-New Zealand region. We had about 3,500 to 4,000 people. with contingent workforce as well. Obviously that number flexes. And then for a number of reasons, overnight, I suddenly became just one person. So from 100,000 down to one. And that was both daunting and exciting. And so I felt that this is not the first time I've done something like this in my career. So it also led to me feeling, I suppose, comfortable to write a book about career stories and how do we shift throughout our careers and not just expect it to happen for us, but what are some of those things that we do to actually make those changes ourselves to be in a place where we're comfortable in our career. Of course, my mother, who's very traditional, kept thinking, why have you left a perfectly good job to go out on your own? It's taken her a very long time. She's still not quite over it. And in that traditional way, doesn't quite understand that those things happen and things change. I suppose two things as well happened in that role. I started to feel a bit stifled. I'd been in the role for 2 years. I had an amazing team who I just loved working with, and we worked really, really hard to really develop the talent management function. But things were changing. We'd developed all of those new programs, and new stuff really wasn't happening as quickly as we wanted, and we just didn't have a budget. Imagine that as well, in HR, people not having a budget to do things. About the same time as well, a number of months earlier, our vice president for Asia Pac for talent management based in Hong Kong had decided to leave his role and head off overseas for 12 months, traveling the world with his wife and their dog. And again, in true HR style, we hadn't done any succession planning on ourselves. And what I didn't realize was I was the, I suppose, natural successor for that role. And when we discussed it, and he said, well, you're next. This is your role. And I thought, I actually don't want the vice president role. Thank you very much. That's really lovely. However, I don't think I'm committed to, work 24/7, which is really, when you get to that level, I think everyone knows that's the kind of expectation on people. And so it didn't take me long, but I kind of started thinking, oh God, if that's not what I want, what do I want? And what's next for me? And what if I don't want that next promotion? How do I make this role, continue to make this role more interesting? And I tried for a while. And again, I suppose that's why it kind of came about, that I started to kind of go, well, there's only so much I can do here, and I've done what I can. I love it here. I love my team, but I just need to do something a bit different. And I engaged a career coach a couple of times throughout my career, and really to help me understand what are my motivators. And our motivators change over time. When you're young and you're starting out in your career, quite often it's travel is exciting, and you want to work in an exciting, dynamic type of environment. And as people get older, things change. There may be children or aging parents that you need to look after. And so it's a different type of flexibility that you need. So it's not about getting away to go surfing or something nice during the day, but it's actually, I need to go and collect my children, or, my mom needs me to take her to the doctor, whatever those situations are. So our flexibility and our motivators change. And in my case, I think what it helped me to do was really work through some of that roller coaster thinking. And it's not easy, and it takes time, and we need to mull over it. But what the process of career coaching taught me was I need to be able to take a risk. And the best things have happened in my career when I've actually taken a risk. When I play safe and I play with the known, then nothing exciting happens. And the only way for some amazing breakthroughs for me really was to take a risk. And I'll talk about some of those as well. The second thing is really important, is having a career strategy. And, some people say, oh, well, if I keep my CV up to date and I get my LinkedIn profile really looking well, then jobs will happen. Or maybe if I register with the next step, and otherwise that little things will happen. But, I know with speaking with, perfect example, the next step, you need to be very clear on your strategy. What exactly are you looking for? And you have to help them to help you. So what is next for you? What do you want? What kind of environment? What location? What are the non-negotiables? And that's really critical in helping them get the right role for you, so that you're not jumping for the shiny toy, which we all know. I'm a bit restless. I want to do something else. That looks good. I'll go and grab that. And then you go, this is the worst decision I've ever made. So you need to have a strategy in place, and it needs to be time. There's timeline, and what can I accept? Am I willing to move? All of those things. The final piece for me really was the third piece. So take a risk, have a career strategy, and that confidence comes with clarity. And again, rather than going into an interview saying, yeah, this company is really important to me, and I couldn't tell you why, is what's going on in your head, or maybe I do know and I think I like it and I've heard it's really good, but just being really clear, this is what I want this level of a role. In my case, I wanted some travel because I love traveling. I would love a small team because I love developing people, but I don't want anything too big, because I want to be able to get on with the work and the people in a lovely balance. And so that confidence is really, really important as well. So take a risk, have a strategy, and the confidence comes with clarity. And so what happened now more recently is 18 months ago, as I said, I left the professional services industry and I'm now a careers and capability expert, and I help individuals, teams and organizations drive growth through identifying and addressing capability gaps. And I do that in 3 ways. I do it through identifying and removing the blockers that are holding people back in their careers. I help them build a map to understand what's next for them and bridge the gap to help them stretch themselves to make that change that they want. Just at this point, as we work through as well, I know Sophie and Alan are there. If there are any questions coming through or any comments, we'll take some breaks as we go along intermittently if you want to put anything into the chat box. Sophie will share that with us. What would you do if you weren't afraid? I think so often this is what stops people from making a change in their careers. And I know, again, this is talking about some of your leaders as well. It's like, what would you do if you weren't afraid? And Sheryl Sandberg, and through her incredible career through Google and into Facebook, and in 2012 becoming, a billionaire, like, she took risks. She talked to people. She didn't kind of sit back and expect things to happen for her. She took risks, and this is her expression. What would you do if you weren't afraid? If you woke up, if you take a moment and think, if I woke up tomorrow morning and I was doing something different and I wasn't afraid and I was doing exactly what I wanted to do, what would that look like? And that's really important. We don't think about that often enough. We kind of look at what's available rather than thinking, what do I actually want? And I know that's quite idealistic to say, well, what I want isn't available. But we don't know until we start searching, until we build that clarity and confidence to understand what it is we're looking for. So what is that thing that you would be doing tomorrow if you weren't afraid? What we'll do today is we'll have a look at why we're here. We'll talk a bit more about the why behind the need to get our careers straight and so organized for ourselves and build that clarity for ourselves. Look a bit about recreating your career story and also how we can do that with your leaders. And I'll talk you through the book and some of the model that's in the book and how that process comes about. I'll talk about my program, so I can support you as an individual, I can support your leaders, and I can support your leaders' teams as well. And then finally, let's connect. I've got an option in there as well to do some connecting. I love this expression as well. Lee Sales, from the 7:30 Report, journalist and author, who recently wrote Any Ordinary Day, walk towards what you fear, it's what fills you with growth. When we want to grow, we have to overstep and overcome that fear. And it doesn't have to be anything monumental. It's not about leaping out of a plane, but it's just, why am I afraid? What's stopping me? What's holding me back? And what would I do if I wasn't afraid? Okay, so we know that a lot of things are happening in the world of work, and there's changes to the world of work are happening. We know the market's shifting from local to global. We know the pace is getting a lot faster. Structures are shifting. This is so topical for HR people. We know the traditional org structures really aren't going to exist for much longer. It's much more about that matrix environment, which is already everywhere, and ecosystems. So, I'm reporting to John today. John's reporting to me on a project tomorrow. We know we've got more generations. We've got a greater workforce. We know all of this is happening. Our workforce needs to be much more adaptable as well. Industries are transforming. It's much more now about speed and agility and adaptability and resilience, and a lot less really about the focus on efficiency and cost cutting. We've got digital, we've got AI, cloud, gig economy, global mobility. We know all of that's happening. Not only is what we're doing, but how we're doing it is changing as well. And this is so critical for us in the HR space. We need to be aware of what's happening. I love this picture. This lady down the front is the only woman who's really keeping an eye on what's going, because she's not lost in the detail, lost in getting caught up. We know in HR, we get pulled into the business on stuff all the time. There are always distractions. we rarely get the chance to sit back and think, what do I need to do? What's in it for me? I'm out there developing everybody else. I'm running training programs. I'm organizing everyone else's webinars and sessions. But what's in it for me? How do I actually remain focused? And how do I move all that noise for myself and, you know, all that stuff from my leaders? Everyone's getting distracted all the time. And how do I make room for me? This change is happening to us. It's happening regardless whether it's something that we want to do or otherwise it's actually happening, and we have no choice to make any, we can't stop it. All we can do is influence what we do ourselves. For those of you who attended Marianne Rue's sessions recently, you know, she talks about 65% of today's primary school children will work in jobs that don't yet exist. How is that going to impact HR? How is that changing our world? How are we helping our teams and our leaders in our business when, you know, most of those jobs haven't even come about yet? There's a big change in the nature of careers. We know, I mentioned earlier about we're changing jobs 12 times a year. It can actually be even more. Jobs have 2.5 to 5 years shelf life as well. Millennials, Marianne shared as well, make up half of the workforce by 2020 and 75% of the global workforce by 2025. And there's an explosion of contingent work, 40% of the contingent workforce by 2020 in the US. How do we manage this as HR people? How do we manage this? How do we manage their careers? How do we manage it from a career perspective? So much happening in the space of careers. We need to remain focused, and we need to help our leaders remain focused. We can't just keep putting random people on development programs just because they're next in line. We know that happens. Oh, they've been here the longest, or they've been put forward. And as HR, we often struggle to kind of say, well, they're not actually necessarily the right people. They were promised that program years ago, but are they still the right people to get on that leadership program today? We don't have time to sit back and think strategically. We really need to take that time to understand what is happening in the business, understand our people strategy, and understand the implications for careers. So when is it time? When is the right time to actually start looking? What are some of the things that you can start to recognize in people, apart from them telling you? What are some of the things you recognize in yourself as well that's the right time to start making a change? I mentioned earlier I started to feel a bit stifled. I realized I didn't want that succession role. What are some of the things for you? The Monday's Friday ever. If that's how you're feeling today, if you're feeling a bit energy depleted, a bit bored, a bit apathetic in your role, jealous of what's happening with other people, you know, HR, we often miss out on development programs and leadership programs. We're quite often people who design them, so we put the work in up front, or we're the people who get to observe from down the back. But, you know, quite often, we're not the people who get to actually go on those programs. We get a little bit jealous, and you know, it's everybody else in the business that we're looking after and that the business is looking after. We may be seen as a cost center, unfortunately. If you're sitting there thinking today is just the Monday's Friday ever, I know here in Victoria it's a long weekend, so I'm not sure if there's anyone from Victoria here, but if you're feeling like, you know, your bus ride is the best part of, or your tram ride or your train ride to work you're driving is the best part of your day, and that's you've got a really big problem there. If you're taking longer lunches, if you're doing anything to get distracted, if you're doing the simple tasks first, if you're just not excited about your role and things are not happening, it really is time to start thinking about it. It's Corn Ferry put through a report on that this morning, actually, just some, you know, 10 points about when it's a time to actually change a career. It's worth maybe having a check of that report. But it's really not where you want to be. It's not where you want to sit. So if you think, what does hold people back from making a career? I'd love to hear from you if you do get a chance to put something into the chat there about what do you believe holds people back from making a career change? What are some of the things that are going on? What are some of the feelings that they're having? Sophie, I may pass to you just to see, have there been any comments, anything coming through?
Nothing at the moment, Mary, so we
okay, thanks, Alan. Yeah, no worries, I'll keep going, thank you.
So feel free anyone to put any questions you have or any comments in the chat box or in the Q&A section, and we can address them throughout the webinar, no problem.
Lovely, thanks, Alan.
Right.
Thank you. And I think it's really...
sorry, there actually,
yeah, sure.
I just have a comment from a lady called Jenny. And she just mentioned that stuck in the routine and habit or fear of the change.
Oh, fear of the change, yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, thanks, Jenny. I think.
And Michelle
Yeah.
said also fear of failure is another one for herself.
Failure. And you know, thank you so much for saying that, because quite often we're afraid to admit that fear. We kind of sometimes kind of go, well, let's just bury our heads in the sand and nobody will notice. And everyone's afraid. It's the fear of the unknown, isn't it? Like, what happens if I make a change? What if it goes wrong? What if I'm not good enough? What if I made the change? It was the worst mistake I made. You know, in HR, we know that things are changing now. It's okay to make a change. It's not a job for life. And we don't sit and look at people's CVs and say, you only stayed there 6 months. You know, we understand that not every role is not every move is the right move. I know that fear comes in so much, as well as it's, and we will talk more about that, because it does come through in the book. Because it rhymes with clear, fear, and it does come in. You know, we will talk about people's fears, and what's holding us back as well is that routine. It's just, we get stuck on this treadmill. We're like almost like a hamster in the, you know, the hamster wheel, just going, I really want to get off this thing, but I can't, and I'm getting busier and busier, and things are moving faster, and if I jump off, I might hurt myself, and it's do the wrong thing, and I've got commitments to family, and there's so much going on. But we also know, and you know, I think everyone knows deep in their heart that without taking some risk, those changes won't happen, and things are just going to get probably more challenging. So we'll definitely come back to that, and thanks for your comments. I'd love to hear more as people go through. So, and I think if we think about ourselves, but if we also think about our leaders and our teams, you know, they kind of come to us because they think we've got all the answers, and we probably don't. We can help as best we can, and we can give some guidance and coach them through, but we don't know what's next for them. We don't know what's next for ourselves. They're coming to us saying, you know, I don't know what's next. I don't know what to do. I don't even know what's available in this organization. Some stuff we can definitely help with, and can say, look, there's maybe an org structure happening, and we can maybe help you understand what that looks like. But helping them understand how to get there. You know, there's so much demand on us as HR people to try and work out how do we help all of those individual people, but everyone's career story is different. And so it's not a generic one size fits all. Here's your answer, go in, you know, read that book, study that, and then off you go, you're ready. And there's so much more to it. It's so complex and time consuming and individual. So I think when leaders come to us as HR people, this is us, HR there with the hat on, and I'm sure many of you feel that you're just frustrated. You're sitting there thinking, oh, I've got so much on, and this person's here in my ear, it's lovely little whippet, here in my ear, just I really want to help them. I know if I don't help them, HR are already struggling with our reputation. We want to look good in the business, but we really struggle because we're trying to help everyone and we can't help them. And then they're there in our ear and we're just going, I really want to help, but I can't. And I've got all of this other stuff going on. But they're saying, yeah, but I made a promise to my team, and you made a promise to me, and my manager made a promise, and I missed out on that leadership program, and you said last year that I could get on it, but then obviously the exec team had decided that they weren't going on it, and you're the go-between trying to explain it to them. They start to feel overlooked. They're feeling a bit aimless. It might be somebody who, you know, at one time was on this career trajectory, they were flying in, and then something happened. Maybe they went to work off site, and suddenly, you know, they're just aimless now. They're like, well, I went off, I did what you wanted me to do for 12 months, and I'm out in the middle of whoop whoop, and now I'm coming back to the office. You've forgotten about me. What's actually going to happen to me here? People are restless as well. It's like, I just want to go on, I want to do something else. And as HR people, we're just going, I really want to help you, but there's only so much that I can do. I've only got so much time. They're frustrated. They're being driven crazy. They're going, HR and helping me. I'm going to have to help myself, but they don't know what to do. So there's a lot of tension happening. Then this is you going, okay, I really want to help. I'm really trying not to stress here, but I've got so much going on. I really want to put that person on the program, but it's a nomination process, not an application process. So we're not putting the people who want to go on, we're putting people who somebody else decided in many cases needs to go on the program. So, well, they were on the list for the last 3 years, it's their turn. It's like, but they're not the right people. We know that. But it's very hard to actually get that message through to quite often to senior leaders. We also know that we're sitting there, we're trying to work with maybe grad programs and onboarding. We've got new onboarding people coming on board. We've got a leadership program running next week. We've got performance appraisals and performance management. We've got promotion processes all happening. All of this is happening at the one time. And then we've got these people in our ear saying, yeah, but what about me? And how do you fix me? And what about my career? And we're just getting completely overwhelmed and completely stressed out. And I'm saying this because I know that's exactly where we felt. This was my life, was that coloring pencil, and going, I'm really trying to cope with my stress levels here, but there's so much happening. And as I say, it's not for the lack of wanting to help, but this is what's kind of coming through. So quite often we know that, the career mindset, if we look at ourselves and look at our leaders, they're quite often in that chaotic space going, okay, now I have no idea where I am, what I'm doing. It's a complete mess. I've got concrete boots on. I'm not moving. I've been in this role for 8 years and nobody seems to even notice I'm working really long hours, and this is a complete basket case. Do I stay? Do I go? There's projects coming up, but I'm not getting on them. And they're getting, really just, I don't know what the right thing to do is. Who do I talk to? I don't know what to do. The next level up really is just a bit confused, kind of going, okay, so I was the person who used to get on those programs I mentioned earlier, and I'm a bit aimless. I'm like, I don't know, like other people around me seem to be getting on them, and I started before them and they're on it. So I don't know, can somebody help me with this? The next level is cloudy, which is, well, I have an idea of what I want to do. I have a fair idea. I think I want to do this. I really would like to work with that person, but I don't know if there's anyone on the team. And it's like a kind of a frosted window. Like you can kind of see shadows and you kind of go, I kind of have an idea, but it's not very clear. And so what you want to get is to clear, and you want to help your leaders get to that clear mindset. That's the most important thing. How do you really get that focus? How do you get clear on your career? So we've gone through, all of that tension, frustration. They're frustrated, we're frustrated, we're all overwhelmed. But we need to get that clarity on the careers. We also know that it's individuals' own responsibility to develop themselves. You also hear that, oh, nobody developed me. They left the organization. We couldn't retain them because nobody developed them. Well, did they tell us what they wanted? And if they did, do we hear them because we're drowning in everything else? So organizations need to invest in careers, not just in development, but actually understanding people's aspirations. Are they the right people in this organization? Are they engaged with the organization? We hear this all the time. Employees are our most valuable asset. Hopefully people know what carbon paper is. It's a kind of maybe an older generation kind of joke, but it's really, I used to hear it all the time. Employees are our most valuable asset. And then I would be in a role, I remember being in a role, 3,500 people, that we were looking after all of their development, performance management, succession, and everything. And there were 2 of us looking after 3,500 people. And I think it's true is to say, show me your resources and I'll tell you your strategy. So if you're saying your strategy is employees are our most valuable asset, you have 2 people looking after 3,500, I'm sorry, but I don't believe that. And I really do think, I'm not saying all organizations are like that, but I'm saying quite sometimes there is lip service paid to it. But organizations really need to invest in careers, and it's not just a generic one size fits all. We know that we have our high performers and our high potentials, and we put them on a program, and they're incredible. And I've been involved in some of those amazing programs myself. But we've really got to give that one-on-one support as well. The benefit of actually focusing things on careers themselves is people can help each other and say, I tried that, or I can point you in the right direction, or I didn't know that you were interested in that. I just did that last year. Let me tell you what that's about. Let me tell you how it worked for me. So we don't give people the platform to actually discuss that as well. So that's really important. We just kind of keep kind of developing them and kind of pushing them into the next job, or they push themselves into the next job. But we really don't need to understand, is this the right job for them? Importantly, HR, we need to invest in ourselves. And this is, the shoemaker or the cobbler's children always run barefoot. And that's because HR, we're always just helping everybody else. We spend our whole time, with like the whippets, trying to get people's careers organized for them. But what are we doing for ourselves? How often do we invest in ourselves? How often do we take time to actually develop our own careers? So we're also, learning loads about what's happening in the business. We learn about how can we improve HR within the organization, but what about me, and what's next for me, and what's the right thing for me? And it's just really, really important that we need to invest in ourselves. Don't forget ourselves. That's absolutely critical. And why don't we? Why don't we invest in ourselves? I've been in the last 18 months offering programs to HR to actually help them understand, you know, what are the things you need to be working on? What are the things that actually have an impact? But actually HR just gone, I'm just being pulled into the business. Well, you're being pulled into the business to do the stuff in the weeds rather than actually taking the time to be strategic and sit back. And then more importantly, what are you going to do for yourself and invest in yourself? And also there's a bit there about, it's not about the organization paying for everything. Tradespeople, they invest in their own ute, their own van regularly themselves. They upgrade their own tools. They get out and they do Cert 4 courses or whatever they are that they need to actually do to develop their own careers. They don't just expect their businesses to do that for them. No one's going to pay for their equipment and their tools of the trade. Our knowledge is our tool of the trade, and we need to invest in our own knowledge. Okay, so now that everyone's feeling really stressed out, and hopefully you're all eating as well, so you're not hungry as well as feeling stressed out about, you know, God, all this stuff. You're absolutely right. This stuff is happening to me. I feel it all the time. This is, as I say, this is my book, Recreate Your Career Story, and it's about how to get clear in your career. So there is a light at the end of the tunnel. You mentioned earlier fear. Both of those comments talked about fear, and it's about the most important thing is to clear the fear. It rhymes with career. Clear the fear. We need to actually help ourselves remove what are those blockers. We need to understand how do we break through those blockers that are holding us back. We need to identify what's holding us back in the first place. Once we've done that, the second thing is build a map. So where do we want to go? What's next for me? What's important to me? What do I value? You know, what would fulfill my purpose? But how do I go about it? What is it that I need to do? What needs to happen next? And the third piece is, how do we bridge that gap? So what are some of those capabilities that we need to develop to be able to get to that next role? And it might be somebody's moving into a people leadership position, or maybe, you know, getting a mentor to actually help you understand what's available out in the workforce. So if we clear the fear and build a map, that gives us clarity. It gives us focus on where we're going to go. So we get rid of the blockers, we understand what it is we want to do and what's important to us, and we get some clarity. Build a map and bridge the gap. Because, you know, we deserve to understand what that capability is. What's the capability we need to get to the next stage? If we have clarity, we have the capability, we know what we want, we can articulate it. That's what gives us the confidence to get the job that we want, to get that next role, to get that promotion, to even say, you know, I want to go to 4 days a week, and here's why. And being very specific about it. I get that's not for every organization, but, you know, it's coming to that, which is great. So having the confidence to articulate what's right for you. Alan or Sophie, any comments or questions coming through there? Take a moment.
No comments at the moment, except if somebody's just praising your actual presentation slides.
Oh, thank you.
And I think they're fantastic.
Oh, thank you.
If anyone has any comments, anything so far on what Mary has to say there, please feel free to jump in, no problem.
Lovely, thank you. Thank you for saying that, because I actually messaged Alan earlier and I said I've just redone all my slides this morning because I woke up in a really good mood, and I just thought I'm just gonna have a bit of fun here. And this is how I coach, how I mentor, and these are how I run my workshops as well. You know, these things happen to us, but we can't take life too seriously, and if we take it too seriously and we get too focused, then we lose the run of ourselves, and we need to just have a bit of fun along the way as well. So thank you for commenting.
I have one here actually, Mary, for you now. A lady called Michelle has just said, hi Mary, do you have any tips or techniques on how to gain clarity?
Yes, I absolutely do. It's in the book. It's in the book, and so the first thing here is I'll just talk you through some of the stuff that comes in the book. And to gain clarity, so the way the book is designed and the way my programs are, it's quite I suppose it's a little different. It is quite different. It's an introspective piece of work, and it's about understanding what has happened for you in the past, what has worked and what hasn't worked. And we kind of think about it, but it's really sitting down and taking note of, okay, so if I think about all the jobs I've worked in and all the teams, and what was it about the culture that I liked and didn't like? What about the location that I liked? What about the team? What about my manager? What about the values of the executive team? What about the industry I was working in? What did I like and what did I didn't like? What we often do as well is if we're getting frustrated or upset in a role, what we tend to do is think about recency and kind of say, right, I really didn't like being just, you know, that hamster, one of 50 in a team. It was too big, I didn't like it, and I'd much rather be less specialized and have an opportunity to be more generalist. However, everything else in your career had been very specialized and it worked really well for you. And the difference is that we think about recency, we kind of think, oh, I hate this, so this is not what I want. But if we take the time to work through all of our career positions to date and really think about, okay, what worked and what didn't work, we may find that the pattern is quite different. The pattern might be, actually, I do like being part of a big team. I just didn't like that team, or I didn't like that organization, or I didn't like that product or service. And so the clarity comes with the reflection. We don't take time to sit back and think about it. And hopefully that helped a bit. There's a lot of tips in the book. Here are some of the things, again, we mentioned earlier, what's kind of holding me back. So what's stopping me? So it's too hard, I can't do it, I have no confidence, I don't fit in, everything's ambiguous, where do I go? I don't know what I want, I'm not good enough, I'm not tech savvy enough, and it's all about systems now, and what happened to paper-based, or maybe I'm not good enough at learning that stuff. Really just thinking through all of those things that have happened in your life and taking that reflective way of working and understanding what's stopping you. The next thing is what's pushing me. So, well, if I got rid of all of those things that I didn't like, and if I thought about, right, what if I wasn't afraid? What's pushing me? My happiness, my future, flexibility, which I really need. Status is important to many people. I'd have a new career. I'd have built my capability. It's rewarding. I'd feel successful. I'd get confidence, and I'd be having an impact. You know, we really just need to think about, it's one thing about thinking all the things we're afraid of, but if we sit in that, we'll just drown in the negativity. And what we need to think about is, right, well, if I got rid of all that and I could push through it and just, you know, just go and pretend it's not happening and just push through to the next stage, what are the benefits of actually trying to work through that and work through those fears? Many of you will be familiar with Dan Pink. So Dan Pink talks about the motivators, and this is just an amazing little video for, I use this in workshops all the time. So I'd love, if you haven't seen it already, take the chance to look at it. It's called The Surprising Truth of What Motivates Us. And this is on YouTube. It's a 10-minute video, and I play it all the time, and people, audiences, teams love it because it's really cool, and talks about Atlassian and all that as well. But Dan Pink talks about the 3 career motivators are the most important things in our world are autonomy, mastery, and purpose. And so autonomy, we want to be able to make decisions about our own careers, and we want to be able to make decisions about our roles and not be micromanaged. Everyone hates micromanage. We also love to be able to say, I have an idea, I've got an initiative, can I give that a go? So that autonomy is really important. Mastery, we want to be known to be great at our jobs. We want to be really known to be great at what our careers. And that's why it's hard for us when the business is saying, oh, you know, HR really aren't up to scratch, or they're not doing what I want them to do. It's like, well, because half the time you're not giving us a chance to really show you what we can do, to really partner with you strategically. Quite often we're just filling in forms and doing kind of admin stuff that we shouldn't be doing. The final piece is purpose and what's important to me. And so am I in an industry that feels purposeful for me? You know, or am I in somewhere that contravenes my values? Am I getting to provide purpose? Millennials now are all about contribution and less about consumption, which I love. I love that expression. They're all about, how do I contribute and how does my organization contribute to the community? Which is absolutely incredible. And it's really obviously in the forefront of what's happening with climate change at the moment. Younger people in particular are coming in with a very different sense of purpose and expectations on organizations. So if any of those 3 aren't sitting well for you, then you know that something needs to happen, something needs to change. This is a wonderful woman, Anita Govender. I hope I pronounced her name correctly. And I met her through my last role, and she's now at UGL. So Anita, she's of Indian heritage, raised in South Africa. A career counselor told her that engineering coursework would be too difficult for her. The woman's a genius, by the way. She's so clever. She became the first female signaling engineer and one of the first signaling engineers of color in the rail industry in South Africa, which is an incredible achievement. And I just get goosebumps thinking about her. She's just so beautiful and humble and amazing. And I've worked with her here. She's based in Sydney. She's an incredible woman, and she talks about, she's a strong advocate for inclusion. So it's about having the conversation about change. The reason I mentioned Anita as well, for many reasons, apart from the fact she's incredible, is as part of this, I interviewed 9 different people that I've met throughout my life and my career who have incredible career stories. And, you know, I've often had people say, oh, Anita's a perfect example. Oh, why would you be interested? And like, are you kidding me? Like, you're so fascinating and accomplished. And but she's so humble. She's like, but I've got my husband and my 2 little children. And I just want the world to be right for them. And it's how people approach their careers with just a different perspective. Hers was about a different type of purpose, and it's now about inclusion. And she's all about diversity and inclusion in her organization as well. And that's, despite all the challenges and the pushback that she's had throughout her career, she's actually led with purpose. And I think that's what's so important as well, which is what makes her incredible. And all of the people in my book as well. There's another woman, just to mention at this point, Sonal Prabotsky, who's now in Singapore. She's the Vice President of HR for NBCU, and she was a refugee in Uganda who came to London, again, of Indian heritage, worked for The Body Shop, Anita Roddick, and also for Virgin. And now she's in this incredible role in Singapore. I met her. She studied in Russia. I met her in Sydney. She's just this amazing, amazing woman, and all talking about connection. And for her, it was her feet, bare feet, growing up with bare feet in the ground for the first 7 years of her life, no shoes. It's about connection to the earth. And so you see her in this corporate style role, vice president of HR for a global entertainment industry organization, but her need is always coming back to what's her connection to the earth. I just love that. Her stories in the book as well, fascinating. Loads of stories, I can't get to share them all today. So clear the fear is the first piece. The second piece is how to build your map. So what's next for you? You need to understand, what do I want to do? Like in my case was, I really wanted to be a director. I wanted the next step up, senior manager to director. I wanted a small team. I knew I wanted some travel, and I wanted to be enabled to do my job. I wanted the tools of the trade to do my job, and I didn't want to be, I suppose, restricted in every point. So that was maybe the autonomy piece there coming in. What's important to you? What do you value? Very important to me, and I'm going to take the opportunity to share it, is the greyhound industry and supporting the greyhound adoption program. I have a beautiful greyhound, and that's what's really important to me. Now, I can't necessarily bring that into my work, but what I want to do is have my work put me in a position where I can support the greyhound industry. And so you may not always be able to fulfill your purpose within the job, but think of how you can do it outside. And then what do you need to do? So what needs to happen for you to make a change? And what are you going to do about it? So you need to commit to that as well. Another story is Kate Morris, the founder of Adore Beauty Online. I got to interview Kate, which was incredible. And she borrowed money from her boyfriend's parents back when she was 19 and set up this online beauty business from her garage in Tasmania. And she just felt that she was working at a beauty stall in a big shopping mall, and she just felt that women felt intimidated coming in asking to be made up. And so she wanted to help them and empower women to feel their best, but not feeling intimidated. Kate's famous. She does many panels as well. She works on a lot of panels, and she won't speak on any panel that's all men. She calls them manels, and she is very vocal about that. She also has a scholarship for women in STEM. So she provides university support and an internship in Adore Beauty for them as well. And, she really stands up for what she believes in, and she's an incredible woman. But again, it's thinking, how does she use her career to build a career to actually fulfill her purpose? So it's really incredible stuff that she's doing there as well. So clear the fear, build the map, and the final piece we have here is bridge the gap. So what are some of the ways that you can bridge the gap? What do you need to do to get out there and just to make that close, to kind of get to that next point? So in the book, again, these are images from the book. And so there are 3 parts. So sponsor, so who's got your back? So we have coaches who kind of guide us through maybe some ask questions. Mentors kind of help us a little bit more. This is my definition anyway, about telling us a little bit more. There's somebody who might have some subject matter expertise in your space, or quite often HR people are that subject matter expert in the mentoring space for careers. And a sponsor then is somebody, so a mentor can guide you to the door, a sponsor will pull you through the door. So they're often the person who's in that influential position in an organization that can pull you through to the next stage of your career. There's a lot in there about how do I find the right sponsor? What do I need to do? How do I show up? How do I go about it? Where do I find them? What's in it for them as well as what's in it for you? The next thing is stretch. So I love this expression. A lovely colleague of mine, Lisa O'Neill in New Zealand, just follow her on LinkedIn or on email and LinkedIn because she's hilarious. Lisa O'Neill in New Zealand, there are a few of them. So she talks about, think of yourself as a tube of toothpaste and you feel like you're being squeezed right out, but there's always that little bit left. And so how do you feel that stretch, that discomfort of learning? So you need to be innovative, network, be strategic about your networking. Everyone hates networking. It's hard work. You walk into a room and you're standing there with your cup of tea and your croissant and you're going, oh God, I can't shake hands. What do I do with my bag? I'm awkward. I can't talk to anybody. I don't know anyone. Be strategic. Find out who's going. Pick 2 people and go, I need to talk to them. And this is why I need to talk to them. And we're going to be very clear on who I am, what I want to do, what I want to say to them, what I want to get out of the conversation. And importantly, what can you give back? So it's not all take. So what can I give to them? And so how can I help them in some ways? I'll just think of something. Something will come through for you. Think 2 people, talk to them, leave. You don't have to stick around. It's, just be strategic about it. If you hate it, move out. If you love it, stay. Brilliant. Have a drink. Carry on. Who do you admire? Pick up the phone, call them. People love to talk about themselves. We forget that. They just kind of, if you say, oh, your career really fascinates me. Would you have maybe 15 minutes? I'd love to just maybe take you for a coffee and let's go and do that. Actually, an expression is don't say I'll buy you a coffee, because they can probably afford to buy their own coffees. It's not really a big draw card, but I'd love to take you for a coffee. I'd really appreciate to hear how you got, what was your wow moment? When was your shift in your life? Be prepared as well with questions. Don't just rock up and go tell me things. Just have specific questions. 3 of them, plenty. Go to meetups, go to conferences, go to immersions. Get out there, stretch yourself. And the next thing is try something new. So you've got to work on your brand. You've got to get out there. Expand yourself, expand your brand, meet people, maybe present at an industry breakfast. Push yourself really. Again, it's almost that stretch thing. Feel discomfort so that you can get out there and get known. Get all over LinkedIn, of course, as well. Do some hackathons, lunch and learns. Maybe do a Shark Tank at your company. Be the sustainability person. Always be curious. Always be learning to see what can you try something new and different. Loads of tips again in the book. And then study. So what's going on? What's going on in your industry? Like who are you talking to? Do you know what's happening in your business? Can you articulate your strategy in your business as well? If you can't, find out. You need to be able to be commercial like that to actually have credibility in the business. Another person I do want to just, another story, final one, is, because it's not all women, obviously Dr. Darren Jordan, who's a principal archaeologist at AECOM. Darren is just like Anita, just one of the most humble, beautiful people I've ever met. And he's just always amazed that I'm amazed by his story. And I've got him to tell it so many times. And at AECOM, I did get an opportunity. We flew him up to Brisbane and he presented to like 200 graduates and he just was blown away with excitement. He's such a beautiful man. Darren started off his life in creative writing, and he was involved in publishing, and he was involved here with the publication of Harry Potter in Sydney, in Australia. And he was standing on the road handing out Harry Potter before it actually became popular. And, he just kind of felt that wasn't quite for him, but he's very community minded as well. And anyway, long story short, beautiful story though, is that he went back and studied archaeology. He ended up going to Angkor Wat and doing all this community work there and doing his PhD there in archaeology. And now he's back providing global support to people, like global communities around archaeology in his spare time, which he doesn't have a whole lot of. But it's really just, that's what's important to him. And he's saying here, you know, tenacity is key. Don't give up, harness the motivation and keep following your dreams. And it's so true. And, you know, he did say that he and his wife really struggled when he went back to university, because she had to support him and she was trying to get through her career at the time as well. And it is a big challenge, and he's already qualified. So what are you doing? But his parents were teachers, so they were all about education and supporting that. So if you get a chance to come across Darren, or if you need a speaker anywhere, guys, go for Darren. He is brilliant. He's beautiful. He's funny. He's lovely. Just, you know, find him out. He'll be shocked. He won't expect it. And so they're the three elements. Get clear on your career, work through the fear, build a map. What is it you want to do, and bridge that gap as well. How are you going to do it? And remember, it's not always a traditional step up as well. And if you can find fulfillment in your career, how can you fulfill it outside your career? What else can you do? So I'm just looking at the time. So one of the things I did, I love the story, Follow the Pregnant Woman. This was my biggest career tip and my biggest career change. I was back in Ireland. It was 2010, I think. Recession had hit, global financial crisis. Ireland was in a complete mess, struggled to get roles. And I took a job doing this awful technical follow the sun customer service role, working, you know, some ridiculous shifts and everything for being paid nothing. And what I really wanted was, there was one learning and development manager role of about 2,500 people. Again, small teams. There's a pattern. And Jackie O'Regan was the woman in the role, and I noticed one day she was pregnant, and I thought, oh my goodness, this is my opportunity, because, you know, she's going to have to go on maternity leave, and it was quite typical that they would take 9 to 12 months back in Ireland at the time. And I thought, oh, I just got to get this role. So introduced myself to Jackie, spent as much time as I could with her, learned as much as I could about her role, took stuff home, you know, did everything I could so that when the time came for her to go on leave, I was the natural choice. Like, I was the person upstairs in customer service, not in the HR team, and everyone was gagging for that role because people loved that development side of HR. And I just followed Jackie around for a good 12 months. Or sorry, not for 12 months, because obviously she wasn't pregnant for 12 months, for about 4 or 5 months, so that I was the natural person for that role. And so that's what I did, follow the pregnant woman. That's my advice. Look for those opportunities and just grab them, go for it. I mentioned earlier, my program and way of working is a little bit different. It's not the piece about here's what's next, here are the industries that are looking, you know, there are experts, you know, the next step is the expert in that space. I'm certain that's not my area at all. But what I can do is help you really think about what are some of those opportunities, what can you do, and give ideas, and then help your leaders as well. So as I say, I've got programs to help, you know, it's that noise in your ear, let me take that noise away from you, and I can go and work with your leaders and work with the teams, or I can work with HR, your HR teams, and train them up on how to actually run these coaching sessions. And so it's very different. It's an introspective, reflective type of program. Again, get the clarity, capability, and confidence. So my one-on-one coaching program, I'll put them up here, and I'll show in a moment how we can actually get connected. I've got a 3-month program. You get the book. There's fortnightly coaching, so about 6 sessions. We do 2 profiling tools as well, usually DISC and Gallup, and then there's an option to do additional GENOS, Emotional Intelligence and Leadership 360. You get recommended readings, regular Ask Me Anything. So in between, I've got to schedule some time where you can just call me, text me. I've got people texting me all the time going, I've applied for this job, what do I do? Help with role and promotion applications, introductions to networks, if I can help you there. I've got quite a broad network across Australia. I just send through regular video clicks as well, and you get my newsletter. So typically a 6-7 for that program. If you are interested in that program, I can do that for 5-7 if anyone's interested in a one-on-one career. And this, if it's not for you as a HR person, even though I would love to work with HR, if this is for one of your leaders who's just, you know, maybe high potential, but just doesn't know how to get to that next piece, is not quite ready for that move, or a high performer and you're terrified you're going to lose them, they're feeling a bit restless and we need to do something to keep them. Let me help that. And my idea is not to help them leave the company. My idea in that case would be, how do I help you build that career inside the organization? And I work with HR and leaders to ensure that we can help people with that as well. And obviously there's an installment payment option there as well. The next option I have is group coaching. It's a 3-month program. There's diagnostics. I work with HR and their leader. There are 3 workshops with teams of people, idea generation, peer practice sessions, again, helping with roles and applications, introduction network. So this is structured with a meeting up front, 3 workshops, interim work in the middle, 1.5 hour debriefing on a profiling tool, and then catch up with HR at the end as well to make sure that the career path is going the right direction. If you can register by the 11th of October, I can do that for $3.9 for 8 people. Minimum of 8, I can go up to 12. If that seems like a bit too long, I also have a 1-month option, which is just a slightly reduced version of that. There's maybe not as much interim interaction. It's 2 workshops, again, working with HR and the person's manager, do a diagnostic up front to understand and a diagnostic at the end. Idea generation is great in group environments as well. And if you register by the 11th, that's only 2,900, and again, minimum 8 people. So it's 900 up front in 2 installments. So this is for me to come into your organizations and to run group sessions. I'm very happy to share that information with you shortly as well. Before you leave, if you could, there's marybutler.net/connect. And there's a web page there, and it's really just fill in this information. I'd love to understand what you loved about today. There's some additional kind of boxes to fill in under this. If you fill it in, send me a discount code for your book. I'll give you that for the book, and it's normally $29.95. I can give that to you today for $15. And actually that's valid for 2 weeks as well. So another option, let's talk and see if there's a fit to work together. I'm happy to come in lunch and learn at your session, at your organization, if that would help. So marybutler.net/connect. Please connect with me on LinkedIn. That would be fantastic. Love to hear from you, and let's connect. Now, Sophie, Alan, any questions?
Let me just have a little look in the box here. Has anyone any comments for Mary?
We can follow up. Yeah.
What we'll do is we'll record this session, and we will upload it to our website, and I'm sure Mary will be in touch. Jenny says, great webinar. Thanks very much, Mary. Looking forward to reading the book. So thanks to Jenny Simmons for that. And it was a fantastic webinar. So thank you very much, Mary. Really enjoyed that. Particularly love the confidence comes with clarity. That's a great takeaway. And also, yeah, if you don't take the risk, then nothing will happen. So some really good messages there as well as we head into the weekend. Michelle says, thanks, Mary. That was a great session. This is from Michelle, and look forward to working with you soon. So that's from Michelle. So thanks, Michelle, for that as well. As I said, we'll put this up online. Also, she said, love your tip following the pregnant woman. That was very
great.
Very good. So fantastic webinar, Mary, really was. So it was great. Thank you so much for your time today. And thank you everyone that tuned in as well. We really appreciate it. So lots of positive stuff to think about for the weekend as we head into it. We'll be in touch with everyone soon. And I think that's it for now.
Lovely. Thank you, Ellen. Thank you, Ellen and Sophie, for setting all this up for me and for the opportunity to get to speak with everyone. And yeah, hopefully you took something from it. Let's get clear in our careers.
That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye-bye.
All right. Bye-bye now.